Mayor Olivia Child's executive committee is set to consider a report on establishing a permanent link to the Toronto Islands.
City staff have been looking at different proposals for a connection over the waterway separating Wards Island from the Portlands. They include bridges, a gondola, and a tunnel. The report says a fixed link would have to allow ships to pass through, but be low enough to not disrupt flight paths. It also says any option would cost a minimum of $100 million and take at least 10 years to complete. The committee is expected to review the report next week. And for a closer look at this and all of the ideas proposed, we're joined live by Deputy Mayor and Spadina Fort York Councillor Ausma Malik. Councillor Malik, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you. A bridge, a tunnel, even an overhead gondola. There's lots to consider here. Why is it so complicated, though, to get something like this done?
Well, first and foremost, we're into beautiful weather. It's summer, and there's nothing more that we love as Torontonians than being on Toronto Island. And it has been my priority to improve access to the Toronto Island in any way that we can, and to make sure that we have better connections when we get there. So I have been adamant in making sure that staff have been directed to look at all the ways that we can get people to the island to enjoy it. And what I'm really excited about in this report is that it covers options that look at the short, medium, and long-term options that we have, and to make sure that everything is on the table. And what we have in front of us is the consideration of a fixed active transportation link, a fixed pedestrian cycling link to the island. And I think it deserves a really close look. And I'm really excited to see that there's direction about the feasibility and the viability of this, because we know that our harbor and our waterfront is a very active place. There's a lot happening there, and there's a lot of very important considerations in order to see how an idea like this can be implemented well.
Well, speaking of a closer look and implementation, we're talking about what? $100 million and a decade. I'd like for you to address those two items, but also what's going on with the ferries. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the condition of them and, getting an electric ferry, all of this in the interim.
Yeah, first and foremost, something like a fixed link to get us to the island, pedestrian and cycling access is really exciting. And what we have in this report is a dedicated task force that brings together the expertise of city staff and the organization of Waterfront Toronto to take a closer look at what that feasibility and viability is. What are we looking at in terms of costs? What are we looking at in terms of consideration and the use of our harbor and our waterfront? What are we looking at in terms of the time frame that this can actually be done? And that is a really important step forward that I'm looking forward to, and that we're not just limiting ourselves to a fixed link. That task force will also be able to take forward some of the very important and interesting ideas that have come to council and to the city about access to the island over the last while. In terms of what we are doing to improve access to the island right now, we have moved forward with improvements even for this season, and that means a better passenger experience at the ferry terminal, making sure that there's shade structures, that you have better lineups, that you can get your ticketing done in a more efficient way. And we have new ferries, electric ferries, higher capacity ferries that will get us to the island and back in a better way, that are landing next year. And that's really exciting for all of us who love the island and love summer in the city.
Okay, Deputy Mayor and Spadina Fort York Councillor Ausma Malik. Hey, thanks a lot for your time this afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Evening, rather.